Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our little soiree. And on behalf of the museum, I'd say I'd love to have you here. You're going to have a wonderful treat tonight. You know what they say about museum directors? They say, after they work and they go bowling afterwards. No, we don't. What we do is we go and we have wonderful artistic friends like Janet, who I've known for years. And that's one of the most exciting things about being a museum director, because you can actually deal with the artists and see what they're doing and get excited over what they're doing. And Janet has been really a star of our South Florida art scene, as well as a wonderful educator. When I was director at the Boca Museum, we depended on her a great deal to bring our students in from all the special classes that she was running. So you're going to have a treat tonight that's going to be wonderful. But I want to say one other thing before we begin. This is the last lecture of our May lecture series. Walter May's family has been wonderful enough to underwrite this series, represented by his son William and Melissa. So we'd like to thank you once again for helping us bring some education and bring some wonderful evening entertainment to this part of town. All right, at this point, I would like to introduce Janet Rogers, and I know you'll be very happy.
Thank you, George, and you're seeing a treat. I am seeing a treat when I see all my work here all at once. It's been a marvelous thing, but really thank George for that, because he is an artist in his own right and how he puts the show together and how it's lit. And I also thank Pan Kaufman for asking me to do this lecture tonight and tour. So I'm going to give you a little bit of history here. I was working on a master's. It was 1978, and I was in a gallery or in a studio at William Patterson University, which is in Wayne, New Jersey. And across the street, or across the hallway, was a class going on, and they were playing with colored paper. And they looked like they were really enjoying it. So my mentor, who was the professor of that class, came over, and I said, "John, do you think I could get anything out of taking that class?" He says, "I'll tell you what, you sign up." Well, that was the start. I signed up, and it changed my world, and it changed my whole scene, and it was just wonderful. And what it was the experiments in color, and I like to call that the magic of color. It's really the interaction of color. If you've seen Joseph Albers' book. So this is all based on, my little talk this evening will be based on what Albers taught us by the experiments in color. Joseph Albers was born in Germany in 1888. He died, unfortunately, in 1976, so I never got to meet him. But he had a lot of very good students, and two of these students became my mentors. One was, which I just mentioned, Professor John Day, and the other was Richard Anaskevich. Now, some of you remember in 2015, you had a beautiful show of Richard's here. I think some of you probably saw that. And he's now, I guess he's still up north, and he was a great influence on me too. But getting back to Joseph Albers, he studied at the Bauhaus School in Germany, and he also worked there. But in 1933, Hitler shut them down. I think that was one of the best things Hitler ever did for us, because he got rid of very famous scientists, architects, also Joseph Albers. And Joseph Albers married his sweetheart, Annie Albers, who later in the 20th century became one of the prominent fabric artists. So some of you have probably heard of her. Okay. And I know Liz has too. Okay. So when Hitler shut them down, they immigrated to North Carolina, and they were at the innovative school, Black Mountain College. And while he was there, he was head of the art department. And one of his students there was Rauschenberg. I hope you all know about Rauschenberg. And I don't know if you really knew, but he was Peck's bad boy. He did a lot of naughty things. And he said about Albers, who was very German, Achtung, you do this. He said I was his worst student, but he was my best teacher. So Albers was quite a teacher. He left there in 1949. He was asked to become the director of the design department at Yale. It was at that school of design that my mentor, John Day, and Richard Anaskevich were his students. And you just had a show of another student of his, Neil Welliver. You remember? I think that was just a couple months ago, right? Anyway, while Albers was at Yale, he developed a series of problem solvings that increase your sensitivity to color. And what I'm going to do tonight is show you some of the problems that my students have done, and you can see how it influences your color sensitivity. Now, it's not going to happen overnight, but it is really a wonderful course. When I took the course, first time around, I spent 20 hours a week doing it, and Laura, my daughter, was a senior in high school, and she's a very dutiful daughter, and she went to visit a friend and didn't call me after school. They were all supposed to call. So the friend said, "Laura, aren't you supposed to call your mother?" She said, "No, she's doing color and she doesn't know what time it is." But that's the way it is. It's really wonderful. So this whole process deals with the subtraction. In color, we subtract. Most people think you add, and that's why you have such muddy paintings, because if I put this, if I put more and more, it'll be great. No, it's all about subtraction. So I'm going to show you these things, and there's 3 things you need to know about color. There's 3 components: hue, the name of the color; value, the light and dark of the color; and intensity, the bright and dull. Also, you need to know what changes color is the distance you're from it, what surrounds it, the lighting, and the amount. So those are the real things that you base this whole course on. So I'm just going to give you some short exposure to it just to show you kind of what we do in the color course, okay?